You've made good time. I took an express train back to London. I can hear Lord Strongheart, can you? Yes, it sounds as though he's talking to someone. Is everything in place? I had a private compartment on the train, so I could check all the paperwork. It's... Kazuma-sama. Ah, your timing is impeccable. It is. No doubt you have heard the sickening news about the Reaper's latest devilry. Yes. I'm sure you don't believe it, of course, though, Lord Strongheart. That Lord von Ziek could have done such a thing to Inspector Gregson. I believe only in the facts. And the facts in this case point to one thing. The unavoidable accusal of Lord von Ziek for this crime. We must bring charge against the Reaper for taking the life of our legendary detective. Oh no, surely not. Die Frage ist ja jetzt, wer verteidigt denn, also wer verteidigt denn? Wir werden wahrscheinlich Lord von Ziek verteidigen, aber wer ist der Ankläger? Ich habe so ein bisschen die Befürchtung, dass Kazuma der Staatsanwalt sein wird. It's a truly regrettable situation. Tomorrow the Forensic Science Symposium finally begins. At the very least, though, we can show the world our justice system's swift and equitable processes. So does it mean the trial is tomorrow? Precisely. In fact, this is a fine opportunity for introductions. Kazuma. Yeah, but of course, you're already acquainted, aren't you? Mr. Asogi here will be present at tomorrow's proceedings. Leading the prosecution. Ich wusste es. Wait, what? Kazuma? As I'm sure you're aware, he's a very capable practitioner of law. Kazuma-sama, a prosecutor? I'm sure you can imagine that tomorrow's trial will be closely followed all over London. In fact, no, people all over the Empire will be watching closely to see how it unfolds. There is no salvation for anyone in a trial prosecuted by the Reaper of the Bailey, and now the Reaper himself must stand in the dock. Quite so, the public want answers about the Reaper. Answers about how and why those who escaped conviction subsequently died mysterious deaths. But Lord von Ziek firmly denies any involvement in such matters. And there have been thorough investigations that have proven him to be innocent. That's certainly true. Or it has been, at least until now. No, tomorrow's trial will mark the start of a new chapter in our country's great judicial history. So, Kazuma will be prosecuting tomorrow. That's right. But he's a defense lawyer, Lord Strongheart. Accomplished young law practitioners cannot pick and choose their roles. And imagine what it will mean for the prosecution to know the strategies commonly employed by the defense. A devastating combination, wouldn't you agree? Absolutely. I have no doubt at all that Kazuma will be razor sharp as a prosecutor. But why Kazuma-sama? There are surely many other highly skilled prosecutors in Great Britain. It was a personal request. I asked to be assigned to the trial. You asked for this? But why? It will all become clear tomorrow. I'm guessing you intend to stand for the defense, don't you? Although, the Reaper appears to be turning down all offers of representation. I'm surprised such a personal request would have been upheld. It seems unprecedented and quite exceptional, in fact. You are quite right, Miss Mikotoba. Tomorrow's trial will be unprecedented and exceptional in every way. After all, the accused is one of Britain's greatest prosecutors, the pride of the Empire. It would be unwise to give the public a reason to perceive it as the judiciary closing ranks. So that's why you're happy to let a foreigner handle the prosecution? Ryunosuke, let's see how your skills have been honed after practicing law on this land for so many months. Kazuma, I don't understand why you're being so hostile to me now. This isn't going to end well, my friend. Oh yes, we noticed that there was a gun at the scene of Inspector Gregson's death. Do you know if it belongs to Lord von Ziek's? That would be a question for the lead detective investigating the scene. Well, the thing is, she wasn't sure, so she told me I should ask somebody higher up who might know. That's right, Mr. Naruhodo. Be direct. It's certainly a model that's issued to all personnel involved in law enforcement, yes, which includes prosecutors, as I'm sure you can imagine. In that case, it could actually have belonged to the victim. No, Gregson had his gun on his person. What about Lord von Ziek's? He claims it's currently not in his possession. What? According to his story, he lost it. In short, it's more than a little suspicious. But just because the gun in question is the same type as the defendant's is no proof that it's actually his. No, of course not. Nevertheless, the situation is grave for Lord von Ziek's. I am sorry for all the worry I have caused you, but it will be alright now. Has your memory completely returned? Yes, completely. I remember everything. Including what I was coming here to do. Right. Kazuma-sama, I can't tell you how happy I am to see you alive and well like this. But how did you come to be here in London when you were suffering from amnesia? It was the voice. This past year, I've been hearing it in my head constantly, saying the same thing over and over. Go to London. That's where your destiny awaits. It was that voice that guided me here to London. I'm so sorry for what's happened. Anyway, my memory might have returned to me, but there's something that won't return to the way it was before. What do you mean? I'm a prosecutor now, so I'm sure our paths will cross again very soon. Doesn't look like we're going to glean much more here. Well, thank you very much, Lord Stronghord. Remember, tomorrow's trial will go down in our Empire's history. There's much you could learn from the public gallery. Sorry to have taken up so much of your time. We will see ourselves out. Before you go, Ryunosuke. What is it, Kazuma? I just wanted to thank you. Kazuma-sama, what? You took my determination to hoard and brought it with you over the ocean in my stead. And you carried out my role to perfection. You always were intent on studying British law in order to change our own justice system. It was your dream, and Mr. Naruhodo didn't want that to die with you. Yes, but I had another purpose for coming here. I actually have a favor to ask. Which is? This trial I will be prosecuting tomorrow. I would like you to be there to see how it ends. Right in front of me. That's the defense counsel. Why? What's this all about? I know you have what it takes. But Lord von Zieks would never put his fate in my hands. On the contrary, he recognizes your talent. He does? It's not easy to see behind the facade sometimes. Here, have a look at this. Oh, ich bin mir sicher, dass das sein Bruder Clint ist. Denn das ist ein Junger von Zieks und das ist Gregson. Da hat der Gregson auch noch mehr Haare. That's Lord von Zieks and Inspector Gregson. In a photograph that must have been taken some time ago by the look of it. And who's the third person? It was displayed very prominently in the detective's office. In Gregson's office, you mean? Yes, what I'm trying to say is, if you really think you can trust the Reaper, you might find that some straight talking makes him take a different view. Take it. I don't understand. Why are you giving me this? Just hurry, Ryunosuke. Visiting hours at the prison are almost over. What are you doing, Kazuma? Also, was man auf jeden Fall merkt, ist, dass Kazuma sich sehr verändert hat. Also er ist anders auf eine Art und ich bin noch nicht ganz so schlau. Also ist mir noch nicht ganz so klar, warum, weshalb. Auch der wahre Grund, warum wir wussten ja, also er hat uns gesagt, er muss etwas erledigen in London, also er geht noch wegen was anderem dorthin. Aber zum einen ist das jetzt so, okay, erst habe ich gedacht, er muss das herausfinden, ob sein Vater wirklich der Professor war, also dieser Massenmörder. Und das weiß er jetzt, also ist das ja eigentlich geklärt. Aber ich glaube, da steckt noch mehr dahinter. Als nur das. Lord von Zieks is still reading that letter. We've been gone quite some time, though. Either he's an incredible slow reader, or it's an incredibly long letter. I might even be able to read English faster than he can. I was intending to ignore you entirely. But I can't turn a deaf ear to such an insulting Nipponese. Oh, sorry. I didn't think you would hear that. I had the case notes brought to me in secret. I was reading them to pass the time. Yes, we heard that your trial is set for tomorrow. Which is none of your business. So, have you found a lawyer? How many times must I reiterate the same thing? This has nothing to do with you. In other words, no. We were just talking to Lord Strongheart, and the prosecutor for your trial has been decided. I would expect nothing less, though I have no idea who it is. It's going to be Kazuma Asogi. That made the color drain from his face. Well then. It seems I'm going to have to engage in conversation with you again after all. "10 years ago, my older brother, who was the director of prosecutions at the time, was murdered. And the killer, as you know, was a visiting student from the Far East. Not a single day goes by when I didn't curse the name Asogi. Genjin Asogi was Kazuma-sama's father. So what cruel twist of fate is this now, 10 years later? The man's son is to crucify me in some kangaroo court? I still don't understand. I still don't understand why Lord Strongheart apprenticed Kazuma to you. It's what he does. No doubt he knew of the young man's true identity from the outset. But what could he have been hoping to achieve? And let's not forget that it was only 8 days ago that Kazuma recovered from his amnesia. Why would Lord Strongheart assign this trial to somebody like that? Asogi. That name is the very epitome of my bane. The bane that is you, Japanese. Right, your hatred of all us Japanese. I'd only just been appointed as a prosecutor when it happened 10 years ago. My brother Clint, the director of prosecutions, was hunting down a mass murderer, the so-called professor. Assigned to the investigation as his partner was a certain visiting student dispatched from Scotland Yard. And that was Genjin Asogi. Exactly. I developed a deep respect for the man. He seemed noble-minded and chivalrous in the extreme to me. Das Wort habe ich gebutschert. But none of us saw the true nature of the man. So I lost everything when it happened. My esteemed brother, the people I believed in, and any semblance of right prevailing over wrong. Oh, how awful. To avenge my brother, I prosecuted Ryunosuke's trial. It wouldn't ordinarily have been allowed, but I beleaguered the corrupt prosecutor until he consented. What do you mean by the ascribed prosecutor? The man in charge of the Professor Case Inquirer, Lord Mail Stronghorn. Wait, what, Lord Stronghorn? He was a highly accomplished prosecutor, but he agreed to relinquish the trial to me and act as my advisor instead. Since that time, he's the one person to whom I've felt indebted. I'm sure he must have seen your zeal for the case and recognized your potential as a prosecutor. Anyway, time passed, but then earlier this year, who should arrive in London but you? And of all things, as a lawyer. I felt your animosity the first time I ever faced you in the courtroom. Your obvious deep loathing of us Japanese. I kept telling myself it was illogical. But for so many years, that hatred had festered inside me. I could no longer control it. I can understand why, now I know the history. But in the same way that I've long felt the Nipponese to be the bane of my life, to Kazuma Sogi, I am the bane of his. The Reaper who sent his father to the gallows. He's looking for revenge, and he intends to take it in court tomorrow. Gregsson's transfer to the Paris Police Prefecture had finally been arranged for the coming month, but he will never make it to France now. It's a tragedy. Oh yes, come to think of it, he did mention something about that, didn't he? I wonder, does it happen often? Being transferred internationally, I mean. That's the first time I've ever encountered it. The Paris police welcoming an English detective is almost inconceivable. I can't imagine what kind of magic Gregsson must have worked to put that arrangement in place. Sounds like that mystery has even the Reaper perplexed. I'm afraid to say, we were very ignorant about Inspector Gregson's standing. We hear that he was considered something of a legend at Scotland Yard. Again, it was 10 years ago that he first made a name for himself by uncovering a decisive piece of evidence that exposed the professor's identity. If it wasn't for Gregson's singular approach to the case, the discovery would never have been made. What sort of approach? After my brother's life was taken, the inspector pushed for a full autopsy. Oh my, 10 years ago? Why is that so surprising? Autopsy was considered a desecration of the body at the time and rawly performed. And my brother was of course a noble. That made the idea of it even more unthinkable. But something Gregsson had dug up in his investigations made him determined it was necessary. His powerful conviction somehow influenced the House of Lords, and as a result, I could avenge my brother's death. So you must have had great confidence in the inspector's abilities then. And it's even more inconceivable that you would have taken his life. I don't have confidence in anyone. And I'm sure Gregsson felt the same way. I have no doubt he thought of me only as the Omnibus Reaper, just like the rest of London. What really went on between Lord Van Ziek and Gregsson, I wonder? What was the true nature of their relationship? Da würde ich gerne, bevor ich nach der Waffe frage, würde ich hier einmal sehr gerne das Foto zeigen. Lord Van Ziek's, we came by this old photograph. Where did you get that? It was taken when I became a qualified prosecutor. It's almost unbelievable. I assumed it was long lost. Is the man on the left there? Yes, that's my brother, Clint. It had to be really... Apparently, this picture was prominently displayed in Gregson's office. He had a deep respect for you, you know. Were you aware of that? Respect? That's nonsense. No, we've heard someone attest to it very clearly. Inspector Gina Lestrade, no less. Well, maybe once, yes. There was a time things were like that. We were brothers in arms, jovially discussing the future of justice and other such lofty subject matter. That was a nice glimpse of the past. I thank you. I feel as though I got a nice glimpse of the past then too. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes, a brief twinkle, an insight into the true nature of this man known to all as the stone-cold Reaper of the Bailey. About the gun used to shoot the inspector that was found at the scene. Ah yes, that's not mine. Really? Because common opinion seems to be that it is. What do you expect me to say to that? Lord Strongheart informs us that you claim to have misplaced your firearm. As embarrassing as that is, I'm afraid it is true. When did you lose it then? That I don't know. I was issued with a revolver when I first became a prosecutor 10 years ago. I must have stowed it somewhere, I suppose. Or left it somewhere, perhaps. You have something in common with Lord von Ziek after all, Mr. Naruhodo. A talent for misplacing things. No, this has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into it. Don't make the mistake of associating me with this Nipponese. Oh dear, the rift is very wide, isn't it? So it's not decisive evidence, clearly. But it doesn't look good, that's for sure. Mr. Naruhodo. That's the first time he's ever used my actual name. I've lost all confidence in my country's justice system. I don't trust the police, the judiciary, or lawyers. But there is still one thing I'm willing to believe in. What's that? That which you see in the eyes of another across the courtroom. A simple determination to know the truth. Lord von Ziek's. From the very first time we clashed in the Bailey almost a year ago now, I couldn't deny it, even though I dearly wished I could. Here is a loathsome Nipponese, who has absolute integrity as a lawyer. There are only two other men I've known with that same look in their eyes. My brother Clint, and Genjin Asogi. The man he idolized, and the man who betrayed his trust in the most hideous way. When you showed me that photograph just now, it reminded me... You mean this photograph? Back then I was able to laugh. I was free of the shackles of mistrust that plague me now. I look to the future with hope. Since then, I've protected myself against betrayal by refusing to trust anyone. But at times, the mire into which I've sunk makes it almost impossible to breathe. I am so sorry. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I want to believe in that look in your eyes. I need to believe in it. In tomorrow's trial, will you advocate for me? Of course I will. It would be an honor. I'm so pleased, Mr. Naruhodo. Then my life is in your hands. For Lord von Ziek's, that must have been an incredibly hard thing to ask, which is why I simply cannot let the man down. Tomorrow, in the Old Bailey, against my old friend Kazuma. To be continued. Okay. Das ist sehr viel zu verdauen. Also wir werden im nächsten, in der Verhandlung Kazuma gegenüberstehen. Ich bin immer noch sehr gespannt, was eigentlich so seine Aufgabe ist. Ich denke aber, also mittlerweile bin ich fest davon überzeugt, dass diese ganzen Puzzleteile erst im letzten Fall sich zusammenfügen werden. Ich denke, vielleicht bekommen wir noch ein paar Brotkrumen hingeschmissen in diesem Fall. Aber ich denke wirklich ganz klar wird es dann erst im letzten Fall werden. Das ist ja dann eigentlich meistens immer so der Fall, der die ganzen Spiele zusammenfasst und diese ganzen Fäden zusammenführt und dann eben, dass man dann eben das große Ganze sieht und erfährt. Und da bin ich sehr, sehr gespannt. Ja, ich muss sagen, ich bin sehr froh, dass Van Zieks, ja, ein bisschen weicher geworden ist, würde ich jetzt mal sagen. Das ist immer noch eiskalt. Und ich mag seine Einstellung nicht. Ich kann verstehen, dass er sich betrogen fühlt. Und dass das eine unfassbar furchtbare Erfahrung für ihn gewesen ist. Aber dann, ja, gleich alle Japaner zu verteufeln, nur deswegen, ist schon ein bisschen übertrieben. Du kannst nicht von einer Person auf alle anderen schließen und dann eine ganze, ja, Rasse verachten. Ja, wir sind alle Menschen und es ist vollkommen egal, woher du kommst, was für eine Hautfarbe du hast. Es ist egal. Du bist Mensch und alles, was zählt oder alles, was zählen sollte, ist dein Charakter und deine Taten. Ja, deine Herkunft, das hat nichts damit zu tun. Und das sollte es nie. Ja, du kannst einen Deutschen vor dir stehen haben und er kann ein komplettes Arschloch sein. Aber das bedeutet nicht, dass jeder Deutscher so ist. Ja, und du kannst genauso gut einen Japaner vor dir stehen haben, der kann auch respektlos sein und ein Arsch sein. Aber das bedeutet nicht, dass alle Japaner so sind. Und deswegen sollten wir prinzipiell immer nur die Leute oder jeden Menschen nach seinem Charakter beurteilen und seinen Taten und jeden als individuell selbst ansehen und nicht auf andere schließen, nur aufgrund von den Taten einer einzigen Person. Das war immer mein mein Standpunkt und das wird sich auch niemals ändern. Also ich bin da wirklich, also mir ist das sowas von egal, woher jemand kommt, aus welchem Land jemand kommt, was für eine Hautfarbe jemand hat, was für eine Orientation jemand hat, das ist mir alles egal. Ne? Für mich zählt einfach nur der Charakter von Menschen. Und das ist das Wichtigste für mich und ich hoffe, dass unsere Gesellschaft irgendwann sich mal zu dem Punkt entwickeln wird, wo jeder so denkt und das einfach, ja, dass jeder so denkt. Es wäre schön, es ist jetzt Wunschdenken, aber vielleicht wird sich unsere Welt irgendwann mal in der Hinsicht zum Positiven verändern. Hier wird es jetzt aber erstmal einen Cut geben. Ich bedanke mich ganz herzlich fürs Zusehen. Hoffe, ihr hattet Spaß. Und wenn ihr mögt, sehen wir uns sehr, sehr gerne beim nächsten Part wieder. Bis dahin. Ciao.